In 2020, the Padres became relevant for the first time in a decade. They made the playoffs, won their wildcard series, and then got swept by the Dodgers. They took a step back in 2021. Jace Tingler was fired, and Bob Melvin left the A's to come manage a stacked team. In 2022, they had a great start. They got Juan Soto and Josh Hader at the deadline, and even though they stumbled at the end, they made the playoffs, took out the Mets, took out the Dodgers, and then fell to the Phillies. The Padres had officially arrived as a force in the National League, and they went out and signed one of the biggest free agents, shortstop Xander Bogaerts. With the Dodgers losing key players like Trey Turner and Justin Turner, and making fringe moves in the offseason, a lot of people thought this may be the year the Padres overtake the Dodgers. Well, safe to say, 2023 did not go as planned. The Padres could never get any momentum all year. They showed signs of life in the last 2 weeks, but by then it was too late. This juggernaut was just trying to claw their way back to 500 all year. So, what happened? The answer is not as simple as you might think. In fact, it's quite bizarre. Someone must have underperformed, right? Well, Manny Machado didn't have his normal MVP caliber season, but he still hit .258 with 30 homers and 91 RBI, a 782 OPS and 115 OPS+. He definitely didn't hurt his team. Fernando Tatis Jr. missed about a month serving his suspension, but when he came back, he was an everyday player. He hit 25 homers, stole 29 bases, and finished with a 770 OPS. What about the new guy, Xander Bogaerts? He didn't have as good of a season as he wanted, but he still led the team with a .275 average, 790 OPS, 19 homers, 19 steals. It was a good season. And then you got Juan Soto. He played in every game, hit .275, finished 9th in all of baseball with a 930 OPS. 35 homers, 109 RBI. The guy's gonna get MVP votes. They took a chance on some older guys, and that didn't work out. Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz were not very good in their limited time, but they brought in Gary Sanchez, and before he got hurt, he was swinging the power bat. He hit 19 home runs in 72 games and slugged .500. Almost every starter had an OPS plus above league average, the only exceptions being Jake Cronenworth and Trent Grisham, and they weren't that far off. Overall, they were 6th place in the National League in runs scored, 1st in walks, mainly thanks to Juan Soto, 6th in home runs, 6th in OPS, 5th in steals. This is a solid offensive club. Now, look at how they compare with the 6 playoff teams in the National League. The Braves, Dodgers, and Phillies all got them, but they have a clear advantage over the Brewers, Diamondbacks, and Marlins. The Marlins actually have the 2nd worst offense in the league. Based on their offense, they should have been good enough to make the playoffs. But it's not all about offense. There's also a little thing called pitching. But when you go down that rabbit hole, the 2023 Padres make even less sense. Their pitching staff was amazing, led by Blake Snell, who's for sure gonna win the Cy Young. 32 starts, 180 innings, .225 ERA. They got incomplete but very good seasons from Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, and Joe Musgrove. The weak link in that rotation was Yu Darvish, posting a .456 ERA and being shut down for injury near the end of the season. He was the only one with an ERA plus under league average. But what about the bullpen? That was nearly as good. The starter's ERA only about a 1/10 of a run better, and any questions people had about Josh Hader were put to bed. He saved 33 games and posted a 1.28 ERA. Nick Martinez was their Swiss Army knife, starting some but mostly coming out of the pen, throwing 110 innings and posting a 3.43 ERA. Then you got Tom Cosgrove, and he had an awesome rookie campaign. He appeared in 54 games and finished with a 1.75 ERA. All in all, their staff had an ERA of 3.73. Just a couple points away from Milwaukee for best in the National League, half a run better than Miami and Arizona. This is the formula for winning. A top half offense, a top 2 pitching staff, and when it comes to run differential, there were only 2 teams in the National League that were better than the Padres plus 104. The Dodgers at plus 207 and the Braves at plus 231. The Padres finished 82-80, and there were 2 other teams that had the same record. One was the Reds. They gave up 38 more runs than they scored, and the other was the Yankees. They were underwater by 25 runs. Their plus 104 was better than Philly, winning 8 more games with a plus 81. Better than Toronto, winning 7 more games with a plus 75. And Seattle, winning 6 more games with a plus 99. This isn't even to mention the other 2 teams that grabbed the last 2 playoff spots. Arizona is minus 15 and Miami is minus 56. By all means, this should have been the 3rd best team in the National League, not tied for 8th. Let's get down to the point. Why is there such a disconnect between the stats and their final record? The most glaring reason, they were 9-23 in 1-run games. If that's not enough, they started the season 0-12 in extra inning games. They actually finished with 2 extra inning wins, and both of those came in the last 4 games of the season. In fact, they won 14 of the last 16 games, and they posted a 19-7 record in September. But when you start the month 11 games under 500, you're already pretty much dead and buried. They were 13 games over 500 and games decided by 5 runs or more. But when the game got tight, they crumbled. They had 27 comeback wins and 36 blown leads. Compare that to Miami. They had 41 comebacks and 32 blown leads. And Arizona had 43 comebacks compared to 38 blown leads. So what's the problem? Sometimes a bad bullpen can lose a lot of close games, but that wasn't the problem. Let's look at their clutch stat. According to Fangraphs, this measures how much better or worse a player does in high leverage situations. No surprise, the Orioles top that list. Arizona is number 2. Miami is there at number 7. Now, go all the way to the bottom, and by far the worst team in this category is the Padres, over 3.5 points clear of the rest of the field. Funny enough, the next 2 teams are also playoff teams in Toronto and Minnesota. Bad luck or not, let's say they even won a quarter of the 14 close games they lost. Just 1 out of 4. They get that one clutch hit or that one last out to win it. That adds another 3 to 4 wins, and that vaults them into the second wildcard spot. Suddenly, their season narrative is a whole lot different. The way this team played in September, especially the last 2 weeks, they could have been dangerous in the playoffs, just like they were last year. But let's look ahead to next year. Their 2 star players in the mound are both likely headed out the door. Josh Hader and Blake Snell are both unrestricted free agents, and the team does not expect to re-sign them. Michael Wacha has a mutual option, and given how he pitched this year, they might want to pick that up for $16 million. Seth Lugo also has a player option for $7.5 million. He was great this year. Nick Martinez has a club option for $16 million. That might be a bit steep, but he does bring a lot of value. The team still has their 4 offensive stars, and they've shown they're not afraid to go out and spend money. Ownership and AJ Preller want to put the best possible product in the field. It's paying off. When the team was in the dumps, they were barely drawing over 2 million fans and were bottom 10 in the league. In 2022, they jumped all the way to 5th place in baseball, barely missing the 3 million mark. Despite all their problems in 2023, they finished 3rd, just behind the Dodgers and the Yankees, drawing in over 3.2 million and averaging well over 40,000 a game. So, who's going to run this team in 2024? Let's face it, not many managers can survive this type of season. The expectations, that roster, the year-long struggle. But Bob Melvin has so much respect in the league, they're not willing to dump him just yet. Plus, they know if they do, it's almost certain he would join his old friend Farhan Zaidi and become the next manager of the San Francisco Giants. He still has 1 year left on his contract, and it looks like he's going to stay. He's going to take this roster, whatever it looks like by opening day 2024, and they're going to run it back and see if things break their way even a little bit better. I picked the Padres to win the World Series because of Bob Melvin, because of the way they finished last year, because they went out and got Xander Bogaerts, because of Musgrove, Snell, Darvish, Hader, Machado, Soto, and Tatis. And all year, I waited for them to find their way, and by the time they did, 5 months into the season, it was too little too late. It was a weird season, a very good team playing very well, but failing to win games. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the 2023 Padres. If I left anything out, or if you have anything to add, sound off in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. And if you're new here and want to see more content like this, please give me a sub. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.